Hello, everyone. How are you doing this lovely Tuesday? This is a question from the African saying. I hope you're enjoying this lovely April the 26th. We got rain yesterday here in our region, so we're not too bad. We're not too sad at all. Guys, if you're new to the channel, we do primarily Canadian content. We cover African content because we wouldn't be the Africans if we didn't cover Canadian content or African content. We also cover some club as well. So, guys, leave a like, a subscribe if you like this type of content, and give us a comment. And we got a couple questions for this video. First one being, which player/country do you think will really shine for the CONCACAF W tournament? Let us know in the comments below. So let's get into that. So last week, the draw was set, and we have in two groups now. Group A has the US, Mexico, Jamaica, Haiti, and Group B has Canada, Costa Rica, Panama, and Trinidad and Tobago. So to remind you again, what is at stake? We have two groups. What is at stake is the qualifiers for the 23 Australia New Zealand Joint World Cup, as well as the Paris 2024 Olympics. So, how it's going to work again? Both teams will be in, all teams will be in two groups, round robin, one game each. The top two teams will finish and we automatically qualified for the World Cup. So, if you finish top two, you're on your way through. The third place teams will be eligible for the playoff. At this point, still haven't gotten any clarification on it. So those players will be finding themselves, those teams will be finding themselves and fighting to make it to the World Cup the long way through an intercontinental playoff. Now, the final two teams on each group will play in round robin. So A1 will play B2 and B1 will play A2. The winners of that matchup go on to the final, and the winner of the final is automatically sent to the Paris 2024 Olympics. The loser of that game plays the winner of the third place matchup, as you can see with the graphic that's there. And in that two-legged aggregate game, the winner of that, it gets a second slot. So as long as you're top two, you essentially have two chances to make the World Cup. You can win the championship or you win the two-legged aggregate playoff with the second and third place. It's home and away. So both teams get a chance to host and we'll go from there. So that's how it looks. Guys, on the topic of that, you have the groups here. And let's really talk about the groups. Which groups? I mean, looking at it, I think we can all say that Group A is a lot more difficult than Group B. I won't complain. The Canadian in me is just like, our question was really, when do you want to play Mexico? Do you want to play Mexico in the groups or maybe chance to play them later on? As long as the hosts or the favorites really are able to win, I think gives them an opportunity to put the game away and then meet in the finals. It's set up to be a US Canada finals. Let's see if a team can come in and sneak in. Mexico's been playing great of late. Jamaica is a bit of a wild card, and even wilder than that is Haiti. I don't know how it's going to look, but I think looking at the group right now, I think how they look, maybe how they finish. I think Group A, my picks right now would be the US in first, Mexico in second, then Jamaica in third. And then for Group B, actually, I think it may be Canada in first, Panama in second, and then Costa Rica in third, and then playing into the championships. Then you would have Canada versus Mexico, which is always a tough affair. I think with a full squad, we'll get to the Canadian squad and what we might be expecting. I think Canada has a chance to get through. And then US versus Panama, I think the US takes that done. And then you have Canada versus US in the finals. Canada has been able to beat them recently as the Olympics, but let's see how they're able to go through. I think US will be favored in that matchup. But again, guys, this is way too early predictions. I'll probably set a full predictions video a little bit later and take a look at what is happening in terms of teams as well as opportunities, and especially after the friendlies, which players are in form, if there's any injuries, which may change how we feel. Definitely keep an eye on that. So that is how it looks. The matchups, guys, if you are not aware, this is what the matchups actually look like. So we have all the dates for the games and how they will look. So we have on the 4th of July, US and Haiti, and then Mexico and Jamaica. On the 5th, you have Costa Rica, Panama, Canada, Trinidad, and Tobago. Then there's a rest day on Wednesday. And then on the Thursday, the 7th, you have Jamaica, USA, Haiti, Mexico. And then on the 9th, on the 8th, I'm saying round dates, but let's go. Trinidad and Tobago in Costa Rica, then Panama and Canada, 2 rest days for the weekend, and then the final match day is for the group stage. Both teams playing at the same time, both groups trying to play at the same time mainly. You're gonna have Canada versus Costa Rica, Panama, Trinidad, USA and Mexico, and then Jamaica and Haiti. And I think a lot of people are looking at Jamaica Haiti matchup as maybe the battle for third in that group. But we'll see. We'll see who's able to shock. 2 rest days, and Thursday you have the semis, and then Monday you have the final, giving them plenty of rest to go through, as well as a third place matchup there. So all the top 4 teams have a chance to go through. We're looking forward to it. Guys, let me know in the comments. Man, I'm asking you a lot of questions today. Let me know who you think you're rooting for. Who do you think has a chance to make it out? Who wins the championship? I think easy favorites right now are the U.S., but there are chances for other teams to come through. I think Mexico has shown well, and Canada are the reigning Olympic champs, so that is nothing to sneeze over, nothing to overlook either. I use that statement in the wrong context, but it's in, so we're going to keep rolling with it. With that being said, I think the question, if we're going to look at this from a Canadian perspective, is what do we do with our roster? I kind of did this looking through. I took a look at the rosters that we had for the celebration tour to see if there were any things that were interesting, anything that may have been missing. I mean, the first rosters you see here: Becky Buchanan, Carl Chapman, Fleming, Gilles, Rosso, Heidema, Labe, Lawrence, Leon, McLeod, Prince, Quinn, Riviere, Rose, Schmidt, Scott, Sheridan, Sinclair, Vienne, and Sidorsky. That roster overall. So no real changes came there. I think it got interesting when we then got to the 2 friendlies. So that roster was for the New Zealand matchups. The friendlies against Mexico, this is where we see maybe a little bit of moving, but then some of the names here were interesting. I think the most interesting name for the Mexico setup was definitely having Chloe Lacasse, who played well, was able to combine very well with Heidema in that game. You saw Nikayla Small, who was about to get ready and play for U20s, but it was good to see her get some action up there. Amanda West, who had a great season again at Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh down there. So it was great to see her get a chance with the national team. And then other names, we saw Surieka come back to the program. We hadn't seen her in a while, but those interesting names came through. We were wondering, what does this mean for the program? If you remember, they weren't able to play all their players for that, but you start to see again the same grouping, same types of people. This was, of course, before Lebe had announced her retirement, so she was with the squad, and we saw that coming through. And then we have the last set for the Nigerian matchups. And what made those interesting of note was that the interesting extra names you had: Sarah D'Angelo coming back again, Marie Yasmin Alidou, who played well at the Arnold Clark Cup as well. You have Victoria Pickett, Sarah Stratigadkis, Surieka coming back, Zoe Burns from the U20 making her debut. And that really does bring in some questions in terms of what do we think the squad will look like? Again, way too early predictions based off of how Bev is picking. I think the main thing that we may see here is when we look at the Nigeria matchup, I think the big omission at center back that we all know was missing was our lovely player, Jade Rose, who was at Harvard, wasn't able to leave. So I think those are your 4 center back pairings. And it does lead a question. I'll actually ask the question a little bit later. So I think Rose coming in gives you that 4 sets in the back. Now, when it comes to probably fullbacks, I think the interesting question is going to be, where does Becky end up? Because if you have Becky there, you have Lawrence, you had Riviere, you have her, and then Alicia Chapman or Gabrielle Carl. I think between that grouping, that's a solid grouping in terms of fullbacks you could use. But it's, where do you get the best out of Janine Becky? And I think that's a question that Bev's going to have to answer moving forward. I think Riviere has definitely been taking that spot, and it looks like she's been favored by Bev in that, which means more than likely, if you're going to play that, you may end up with a player like Becky having to play up top. But you also have the flexibility of Becky moving all around the pitch. She just had her debut for the Portland Thorns, and she played up top next to Sinclair in that matchup. Weren't able to beat I forget the team that they played. I'm sorry, guys. Please don't hate me. Don't hate me. I literally just was watching highlights of this. I'm sorry. But they weren't able to get their win in their pre-tournament. But you definitely saw some things, and she'll definitely build more comfort with that. But where do you put Becky? That's an interesting question. And I think that will clear up a lot of what you're going to do at the fullbacks. When you get to the midfield, I think Bev has very much shown Scott, Quinn, and Fleming. I think that's her trio that she's going to go with. Scott as that defender, Quinn playing more of that box to box role as well, in addition to Fleming, who can play that role, but can also play a little creative. And also keep in mind when you're looking at Canada, that 4-3-3 is really more of a 4-3-1-2. So, with that being the case, you also have Sinclair in the middle there as well. So, definitely, I think that midfield is set. Probably with Grosso coming off the bench, Schmidt there available as well. And I do wonder then, is there another role for midfielders, right? Did Marie-Yasmin Alidou really show well at the Arnold Clark Cup? Or are we going to give Sarah Stratigakis a run? Both players played well. We haven't seen Stratigakis play this year. We saw Alidou play against Spain the first half of that game. So that's definitely an interesting one to look at. But however many players she takes, that midfield rotation will be interesting. Again, with all these tournaments, with the U17 happening, depending on when you're watching this, Canada is playing Bermuda, so it can be fun. But it's important to remember that it's a it's not a sprint. It is a marathon. So squad rotation will matter. Having the right players able to produce will definitely help as well. Now, when we get to the forwards, now in the Nigeria set, we do have again, we see Becky there as a forward. Becky is anywhere she wants. You can play her essentially. I don't know if she wants to play goalie again, but you can play her anywhere. But this gets interesting. Leon was definitely active against Nigeria and has been showing well at her club. But I think when you're looking at forwards, definitely Sinclair is there. I think definitely probably Leon is there. But now it's like a combination of players. Who do you take? Right? This roster here has what? 1, 2, 3, 6, 8 forwards that are there. I don't think Bev is taking 8 forwards. So who's going to be playing in form? Is Vienne, who's been playing well, is she going to continue to stake her spot in the squad, or are you going to have Leon continue to play well? Deanne Rose, who's had an excellent season at Reading, she's earned her spot here too. I think the only players, if you're going to look at them and kind of ask yourself, which two? Chloe Lacasse and Jordan Heidema, I think those two are the interesting conversations to have with the squad. Heidema hasn't had enough time at PSG at this point. Lacasse just breaking into the team. I think they both offer something interesting. I mean, we've had discussions about usage and how to use them. If you're wondering what we're talking about, we actually put our podcast with myself and AC Like from WSoccer.ca. It's on the channel. Go ahead and take a look at that, but also podcast as well. But I think it might come down to one of those two, if not those two, maybe not making it in lieu of other spots. We didn't touch the goalies, but we'll get to them in a minute. So because of that, I think it really does make it interesting in terms of which forwards are in form. Michelle Prince just scored over the weekend, and I think a battle, if it's between Lacasse and Heidema, depending on how you want to play your forwards, especially if you're looking for a player to when she comes off the pitch, you may be looking more of a Lacasse versus a Heidema, just based off the skill set of what Bev asks of her strikers/10s in that sense. And then the other forward strikers will have to really be able to produce, right? Leon was active, weren't able to score a goal. Vienna has shown to be proficient. Rose has definitely shown to be able to bury her chances. We'll see how that looks. And then finally in goal, I think it is at this point Sheridan, D'Angelo, and McLeod. That's your trio. Interesting nugget from W Soccer. Thinking maybe D'Angelo's a little bit closer than we're maybe realizing to Sheridan, but we will see. But I think that trio is a solid trio. McLeod coming back from injury, but those three would be great. But I think that's the key thing. You can kind of see based off of the trends who's making it, who's not. I think Zoe Burns, again, it's too early to say. I think if she makes it, she's either playing ending the season well, or maybe there's an injury and they're adding other players. But then, how many players are ahead of Zoe Burns, right? If it's between Gabrielle Carl and Zoe Burns, for example, who are you picking? Right, and I think you'd probably take Carl for the experience, but there's a lot of questions that need to really be answered here. So I think, man, this friendly, I hope it gets announced because we really want to be able to see this team get ready. Oh, since we're here, I think play Australia, guys. Just play Australia. I think Australia is a good test for them getting ready for a team with firepower, a great striker in Sam Kerr, but also good, solid midfield to really challenge our ladies here. So I think that would be interesting to look at. But guys, you let me know right now. If you are not Canadian, which country or player do you think will really be able to shine in this tournament? Again, happening July 4th to the 18th. If you are Canadian, which player do you think needs to really have a big window to really, or a big tournament for us to really have a chance to win the championship? Right. We can go with the Star Wars of Sinclair. To me, since I will answer the question, I think it's gonna come down to a player like Chloe Lacasse. I think someone who can replace Sinclair and provide a little bit of that creativity, I think she has the capability to do it. And I think if she's given that opportunity, she'll be able to prove that ability as well on the pitch. She just needs more time with the squad. So that's my pick. My pick is Chloe Lacasse. If there's a player I think who could needs to have a big window to really step up on top of the other players. But guys, let me know in the comments how you feel. If you're Canadian, which player do you think needs to step up for Canada to have a chance to win a championship? If you are not Canadian, which player or team do you think is going to shine in this tournament? If you're repping the team, let me know who it is and let me know the players that we can take a look at when we get closer to the tournament. We're definitely going to record and have a preview, talk about some players to keep an eye out for. So, guys, educate us as we educate ourselves as well. But, guys, thank you for spending a little bit of time. Depending on when you're watching this video, there's U17 action happening. That's live on the CONCACAF channel. And if you're in Canada, the One Soccer channel as well. So, feel free to watch that action, take in some of the future women stars coming up in CONCACAF, guys. Until then, this has just been a Kwesi from the African saying thank you for your time. Truly appreciate it. And bye-bye for now.